Oh, guys, the wonderful thing of starting new endeavors. Now, guys, we have a wonderful and beautiful endeavor for you guys here today. It's me and Janelle. Janelle, just so you can go and give us an introduction.
Hi guys. Not real big on introductions. I just want to jump right in. But yeah, moving forward, we are the Just Context podcast. I feel like a lot of discussions that are had recently, maybe within the last few years, they lack context. People will throw their sides of things at you, and somebody will have a perspective here, and another person will have a perspective here. But when you
Correct.
put it in context, you end up with a completely different perspective. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, and I love keeping things in context, and we may take stuff out of context sometimes. But I guess that's the beautiful of having open-minded conversation. You know what I mean? Just because it keeps, I would like to say, debates on open platform. I think this is what the world has been missing, because a lot of people, I would say, is sensitive towards what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear, and actually what the reality of it is. Because sometimes things in reality is different from what it seems like on the books or what statistics may put on TV. You know what I mean? I would say this. I think this is one of the most beautiful thing why I like having this endeavor, Janelle. Um, Janelle, I'm definitely going to throw this out there from now. Just Janelle's a lawyer, so I get to pick her mind on. I can't say legal aspect because that will take away from what her work is outside of podcast world. But just so we can get, I guess an idea of mindset that somebody who gets to look at something from two different perspectives because not saying we're not both from the streets or in the streets or off the streets or know about the streets, but I think that where we are in different places in the world because we're not in the same place, I think that's one of the best thing about it. So we are doing this from two different locations. And we have two different people that we get to interact with. So I think that kind of opens up the platform and our conversation and what we're going to be able to discuss. So yes, guys, very, very, very much excited. Now, Janelle, is there anything you'd like to start with first?
So, today I really actually wanted to start off, like, do, inaugural podcast talking about politics because it's such a huge thing or conversation these days.
Yeah.
But something just happened today that made me say, no, 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 we have to talk about this instead.
All right, here we go.
So Nick Cannon has a podcast. I didn't even know he had a podcast. I'm new to podcast world. The only podcast I ever listened to is One Pot Podcast.
Shout out to my boys.
um, so yeah, apparently he has a podcast, and he had a guest on his podcast, who I guess is of the school of thought that Black Hebrews or Black Israelites exist, more than anything exist, but
That's
that
correct.
they're somehow superior, right? So I guess in conversation, um, Nick Cannon, agreed with certain things that his guest was saying.
Okay.
Um, and it put him in some hot water. He got dropped by Viacom.
Mm.
Viacom
Wow.
is a broadcasting company. They own stations like MTV, VH1, among others. I think they had a merger with CBS. So they're huge. They're really huge. And Wild 'N Out has
Yeah.
been on air for a long time, hosted by Nick Cannon on Viacom.
Yes. So is the Mask as well. He was like one of the Mask hosts. So I know
Well,
on his Viacom platform, there's a lot of different things that he does.
he does, but I don't know that the Mask is on Viacom. I think they were on a different station, but I'm not really sure. But Nickelodeon's on Viacom as well.
Yeah.
So, anything regarding his Nickelodeon work, I suppose that has been taken from him, stripped of him. But Wild 'N Out was a big thing because he does not own Wild 'N Out exclusively.
Oh Lord. It's gonna
um,
hurt.
So I woke up to all of this morning being spoken about on social media, and I was just, I had to delve deeper because I was so uneducated about a lot of this. I mean, just simply him even having a podcast. I didn't even know he had a podcast. Um, but then you get deeper into the conversation, and he's being accused of anti-Semitism. Um, he's I don't know. I guess people are just saying that well, first of all, people are saying he's racist. I mean, I'm going to let you know that there were a couple different avenues of that conversation on his podcast that, um, were historically, in my opinion, correct
Yeah.
about white people. Caucasians, if you want to be politically correct. I personally don't feel like there's anything wrong in calling white people, the same way I don't feel like there's anything wrong in calling black people. So, if you hear me say white people or black people, I'm not using that in any kind of, racist or prejudiced context. That's just how I speak.
I'm happy you got it out of the way early, just in case anybody having them feelings or want to get hurt. I want to make sure we set that out there, guys. It's just natural talk, natural conversation. So if you hear it, don't feel no way. And for anybody who missed it, I guess I'm gonna use a little clip so you can revert back to that in case anybody have any feelings. Continue, Janelle.
But so I wanted to talk about this topic because it was, at first I was reading stuff. I didn't actually watch the podcast. Like I didn't see what was being said. I just read, a few articles and a few hot takes off of Baller Alert and TMZ and that kind of thing on social media. So when I saw it initially, it didn't really sound bad. The articles were talking about him saying that, I guess, white people were historically savages. They were historically the conquerors, historically, going to other people's nations and raping and pillaging, and they were barbaric, right? I don't think that, logically speaking, there is an argument to say otherwise. I mean,
the times do speak of it too, but I do want to make something too clear. As bad as we say that, black people participated in that foolishness too. I was going to curse, but in the sense that white people did pay black people for do it. But yes, white people technically have been the CFO or the CEO of the endeavor, as always. So I technically would agree in the matter, but I want to give credit when credit is due on both sides of the fence as well.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, I was just looking at it like, okay, this is, I mean, I don't understand why everybody's up in arms right now.
Yeah.
Then I saw a short clip on him saying that not only, are white people, or were white people, savage and barbaric, but that they were, I suppose, a little less than was the quote. A little less than because they did not have melanin or pigmentation.
The sun is a devious thing. What I hear you with that one, Janelle.
But so when you read that, it's like, oh, okay, like, really? Because personally, I do not ascribe to the school of thought that one race is superior to another. So I am all about Black people, right? I am all about, people who look like me succeeding, according to Issa Rae. I'm for everybody who's Black, right?
Yeah.
But I will never sit here and say that we are better than a specific race or specific people. I feel like if you're going to say that you're better than racism and prejudice, there's not really room for you to say that you're better than an entire race or better than an entire demographic of people, right? So, I saw it and I was kind of just like, oh, okay, that's kind of crappy of him to say.
That's true.
But then I went deeper And I started, like, I really was sitting here like, okay, so which part was the anti-Semitism? I want to know. Then I saw another little clip talking about the Rothschild family. And so I don't really know much about the Rothschild, so I called you. I'm not really into a lot of conspiracy theories. It's not really my speed. The only conspiracy theory that I can probably say that I've always been on board with were aliens. Like, I don't know how you can be I don't know, any kind of life force and not think that we're the only people in the universe. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
So to me, that was never a conspiracy theory. It was just like, okay, we don't have proof yet. But all along, we did have proof, apparently, because, the Pentagon told us that. Anyway, so yeah, I'm looking for the anti-Semitism, and then, come across the little clip of him talking about the Rothschild family, and I got super confused at that point because I'm like, all right, I don't know much about this family, but I don't understand. And I mean, again, I'm slightly uneducated on this topic, right? But I don't understand how referring to one family who are Jewish is referring to all Jewish people. And as far as I understand, anti-Semitism is referring to all Jewish people, the same as racism, against Black people is against all Black people, right? It's holding thoughts or viewpoints that I guess are against that religion, right?
Yeah.
So I was kind of sitting here like, okay, are they like a royal family? Like what is it that makes all Jewish people relate to them so hard that it naturally becomes anti-Semitic to speak about them? And I mean, what he was saying is like the fact that they were, had such control, I guess, over the banking and finance industry.
That's correct.
And that's, I mean, as far as I understand it, that's true.
Yeah, that's correct. They did do a lot in the financial industry, especially when it comes to, not to go down the conspiracy theory. They have a lot to do with the value of gold, right? During the time when the America was going through its crisis, and America was selling gold, what they technically was doing, and they did it with other family. They started buying back America's gold back into the country. So they basically could control the value of the value of gold. So basically they can raise the value or drop the value by any rate. But as I would say, those are conspiracy theory, and it is said they've used it, and this is why this is what conspiracy, because the thing about conspiracy, and one of the good thing about conspiracy, if you do your job right as a bad company, and I'm not going to say that they're bad, is that if you do something negative and you don't get caught, you can't say you caught me. You can speculate as much as you want. But what they've said they've done, they've used this leverage of money and power to destroy other companies and destroy other families just so they can keep their own personal endeavors afloat. So it's a nasty way to, I wouldn't say it's a nasty way to look at it, but I'm gonna say this. I play video games, right? In the retrospect, people do stuff to take advantage of other people, right? In the sense of how to make their business endeavor work, but it's basically it's at the scale where they were able to do it at, because when they decide that they want to use their financial power to influence something, it wasn't small businesses. It was used to influence countries. Like, for example, they were against the Rothschild family was against Napoleon, so they were helping basically using their money. And at that time, the gold value was the major standard, because that's what all dollar is basically weighed at the gold standard, just so we can get past currencies. You know what I mean? And I would say I'm happy for Trading World for teaching me that part. But based on the gold standard, so what they had power over in those previous century was money and infrastructure, which now I guess technology kind of put them at the back burner. That's why their name is not as potent as it is. But I'm going to give my personal opinion and why I think it's hurting Nick Cannon the way it is. It's a big thing about biting the hand that feed you.
Well, okay, so let me continue on my journey this morning before we get to that, right?
Go ahead, Janelle. Go ahead.
So, first of all, I wake up to this news and it's kind of like I'm getting bite after bite and I'm not really getting the full story. But so when I first started realizing, like, okay, he talked about the Rothschild family and people are upset, I was like, okay, but how is that anti-Semitic? I don't get it. And I'm being genuine. Like, I really don't understand how mentioning their power in the banking and finance industry was anti-Semitic just because they are simply one Jewish family,
Mm-hmm.
But then at that point, my thoughts were, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. Like, if they want to kick him off of Viacom, if they want to, even if they decide, to never work with him again, they take all of his contracts and everything. At this point in time, Black people have people in that industry, right?
That's
You
correct.
have Oprah with her own network.
That's
You
correct.
have Tyler Perry with his own studio.
That's correct.
You have, just so many people in that industry that he can, be propped up by. So in my mind, I was like, okay, let's see if these people step up and help him in this situation because I don't think that it's fair. So I watched and I was like, okay, let me try and get more information on this, right? So I finally came across his actual podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an hour and a half long. Unfortunately, I listened to the entire thing. I only say unfortunately, like this is not a dig at him. It's just that it was so long and drawn out on things that I don't necessarily
Care out?
Care about, believe in. It was just so much, and I was just like, oh God, stop talking. I'm not to say that his podcast is boring. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this particular one that everybody's up in arms about. So first of all, let me preface this by saying I am not religious. I do not, I don't believe in religion at all, honestly. I believe in God. So I have a relationship with God, but apart from that, I'm not really into, Christianity is top, priority, or Catholicism is priority, or, Judaism, whatever religion is. I'm not really, I'm not ascribed to any of them, right? So initially the conversation started out about, I guess his role in, not his role, sorry, his guest's role. His guest, I don't remember who he is at this point. They said it a few times in the podcast. He was somebody that was in, I guess, a rap group back in the day.
Quote me on it. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I wasn't that intrigued, as bad as it sounds.
they alienated this guy for his thoughts, and they made the group leave him behind, and then he became like enemy number one in the media. I wish I remembered his name right now, but yeah, not really too bothered about that. Anyways, so his views on, I guess, how he got to be enemy number one. So he was talking about him naming names as far as who was in charge of the not only media industry, but also the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to it, I guess the people who were in charge of the music industry back then, perhaps they were Jewish. I'm not really sure how that conversation led into that, but I know that they were talking about media further on into it. And as we know, there are big names and big people in media who are Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he starts talking about Black Hebrews and Black Israelites, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm looking and I feel weird. I feel icky.
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I don't ascribe to any religion, but at the end of the day, why are we arguing about who these people were? Like, I think their entire premise of like you're not real Israelites, like we are real Israelites, like I can see the anti-Semitism. I can see it because it's almost erasure of this religion. It's you're what you believe is not real and what I believe is real, and I mean at the very foundation of it, you have to see that something's wrong with that. I feel like every person who has their own religion is going to be, well, what I believe is right and what you believe is right, and that's
correct. That's correct.
That's really why they tell you don't talk about religion. Like, just keep it to yourself. So when you get into that conversation and it's like, well, you took our religion and this is really who we are, and quote unquote, we are the chosen people because we have black skin and you don't. I mean, how do you not see that there's something inherently wrong in a conversation that's saying like, you did this to us, but in reality, we should have been doing it to you. And that's really the foundation of the conversation, because it's saying that at the end of the day, we were supposed to be the people on top and you were supposed to be our slaves. And I did read that. Like, that's really what Black Hebrews believe.
And I mean, not to change context of it, it will be crazy to think of, if you think of the locations where a lot of scriptures was written, and not to jump into anti-Semitic, because there is no color when it comes to people, right? Mm-hmm. White people in their sense I wouldn't want to say be the real Hebrews, because it would have been more, you see, if you take a complexion look at what Middle Eastern people look like, which would have been more yellow Indianish complexion, that would have been a little bit more closer reference in what sense. And even if you want to think about where Israel is located or how close a lot of this is in Africa, you will realize that the complexion is a tad darker. The white people are Caucasian themselves would be more Italians and Romans and Europeans. You know what I mean? So in that conversation, and these are the reason why I'm happy that we get to put things in context, because that part of history, Janelle, I'm not saying I'm gonna use a very strong statement that I've heard. The ink has dried.
Okay.
On that part of history.
So I understand that. I understand history. I understand geography. I understand saying, okay, they probably weren't, as white as they portray them to be. At the end of the day, I don't really give a crap.
That's what I'm saying. The ink is dried on that part. Let's move to the future where the ink is still wet. You know what I mean? Where we're still writing stuff.
So, after hearing the conversation, I came away with, two separate thoughts. Yes, conversation that was being had tended in the anti-Semitic school of thought, right? Mm-hmm. But also, I'm not sure that I actually feel like Nick Cannon was completely being outwardly anti-Semitic, right? I feel like his guest definitely has those thoughts, and his guest voiced them, loudly, right?
Yeah.
He, as the host, was agreeing with certain things that he said. Certain things that he said was facts, and he said it. He was like, "Yeah, you're speaking facts," right? What he was speaking facts about, and what the context to that statement was the people who own the music industry and the people who owned media, right? At that point in time. Here's the thing. I know that saying, Jews own the media, there's an anti-Semitic sentiment to saying something like that, because you're basically inferring that there's some kind of plot or conspiracy behind the fact that Jewish people own companies in media. the thought process behind it is basically that, Jews all got together and bought media and said, hey, we're going to, report certain ways and do certain things. And, they all know each other and they're all sitting in, one conference room being, I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. I was, researching and looking and listening, and I was kind of just like, I mean, if we were to turn this around and say the same thing about Black people, they're all friends and they all think the same and they all got together for some, big agenda because they own companies that are, big in this industry. I mean, how many Black people can you really put in a room that are all going to be on the same page and that are all going to be wanting to do the same things, right? So to say that every Jewish person in media who owns companies in media knows each other, one, but two, just came together and decided like, yeah, this is what we're going to be doing. Sorry, guys. My laptop's hooked up to the iPhone.
I was like, Bing. Hey guys, if that wasn't a light in a moment, because that's something that's crazy. Can I say something, not to interject? What is wrong with the Jewish people all coming together, owning something, right, and being successful in it? Technically, I mean, it's gonna sound, and guys, not to sound weird, that's how the game should have been played. If Black people would have took a page out of the Jewish people book in that retrospect, in the level of success, we would have gathered a lot of those things. So not saying anything. So I can't put truth to the matter because I don't know if every Jewish people own majority of the media industry. But if there's a community that's working together, like I guess all the Asian people own all the Chinese restaurants and they know each other, and all the Japanese restaurants, right? But if you're doing something where your community can be successful from it, that's what you should do, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't think that that's where the anti-Semitism comes in. I don't think it's wrong to say that, the community needs to build themselves up and work together and all of that, right?
Right.
And I actually so admire the way that Jewish people come together and take care of.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
I've been to a bar mitzvah. It's fun.
I have a Jewish best friend, and sometimes when she speaks to me about her family and like, how they take care of each other, I'm like, wow. I wish that Black people could think about things the way that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But so here's the thing. I think in my, limited education on this topic, because I'm not super educated on anti-Semitism, I can only say what I see, right? What I think about the issue is not to say that, they have power or they own these companies or even that they have a controlling interest in media, right? I don't think that that is in itself anti-Semitic. I think the anti-Semitism comes in when you're inferring, like I said, that because they have a controlling interest or because they have these companies and maybe know each other, that they somehow came together to do horrible things.
Okay.
And I think that's what's behind some of these theories. Some of these conspiracy theories is kind of just like, they're doing this to keep people down, and they're doing this. They're coming together to control what people see in the media because, I feel like as Black people, we can already say that how we are portrayed in media is not great.
That's correct.
For the most part, generally speaking, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the anti-Semitism comes in when you're trying to infer that Jewish people have, not something to do with it, but they are the reason for it.
Okay.
And you're basically, hating Jewish people and saying that they are, essentially the same as the quote unquote white barbarians that Nick Cannon was referring to, right? They collectively came together and decided to keep us down in some way. I may be wrong, And I'm not afraid to ever say that, I'm not as educated on the topic, or I could be wrong about something. I could be completely missing an aspect of anti-Semitism in saying that, there is a controlling interest, and I'm not even sure if that's true. I did see articles talking about, the Washington Post and like other newspapers that Jewish people own or did own or whatever. Let's just go with the premise that it is true, right? That they do, or certain individual Jewish people do own controlling interests in whatever media, right?
Yeah.
I don't in itself see hate in those statements. I
Right.
just think it's the context. It's what's being inferred from that fact. So after I saw it, I was kind of just like, I'm not happy about it. I don't really like where his guest was going with a lot of things that he was saying. Like I said, there's a difference between being for Black people and feeling like Blacks are superior.
Mm-hmm.
The same as I'd feel about white supremacy and their ideals.
That they're superior. That's correct.
Right.
We're all one. I
Right.
definitely agree with that.
So I didn't necessarily like it, but then like I said, I don't know that I agree that he like his thoughts and his what he was saying was anti-Semitic. I think that he was directly mirroring what his guest had said, number one. Number two, when he did agree with him, it was about facts. It was about history. It was about the fact, just like you were saying a while ago, when you look at people in that geography, in that region, their skin probably wasn't as white as,
That's right.
it's portrayed to be, right? So
Yeah.
those I can understand when you're talking about beliefs. And then he was also actually saying, these are concepts and thoughts that I'm bringing back to what Dr. Farrakhan said,
Okay.
who he apparently is known to be, very
Y-
anti-Semitic.
That's
I
correct. That's correct. Not to take away from Minister Farrakhan, but that can be placed in the same context.
I've never listened to him. I don't know who he is,
No,
honestly.
well, I can't. I've heard him speak. In a sense, he's very much for black empowerment, and I'm all for black empowerment. But I'm not big in empowering one race to deteriorate another. So
Right.
that's where my conversation may switch because um, I'm gonna say this, being in different parts of the world, I've had opportunity to delve into different races. Coming from Jamaica, I had the opportunity to be around black and white race because I had family members who was in St. Elizabeth, right? So I was down there and I met the white Jamaicans, people who blew people mind. Then coming to America, being in Miami, I had the opportunity to be around Hispanics, so I had to enjoy their race. Then moving to more towards the Central Florida area, I had to deal with people call. And guys, don't get upset because I love my people, right? Rednecks, you know what I mean? Because I've ate some gators too, so I'm not gonna act brand new to the cause. You know what I mean? And I've gotten hate and love from different set of people, and you get to understand like, yo, at the end of the day, we're all one, and we all just want to enjoy each other's company and be around each other because I ain't gonna lie, some of the stuff that I've learned from my different cultures of people, I've enjoyed, and I would say I've enjoyed and I've disliked. There are things I don't like because, for example, my Black American people know when they run upon me and be like, "You want some chitlins or pig feet?" I'm gonna be like, "No." You know what I mean? But but you know what I mean? But that don't mean I don't love you. That just don't mean I don't eat it. You feel what I'm saying? So it's just to understand that there's things that you like and there's things that you dislike. Like people will be like, "Oh, so what you don't like about Jamaican people? Jamaican people too ignorant." You feel what I'm saying? Sometimes we probably need to calm stuff down before we get a little bit too feisty. But the thing is, you got to be open to criticisms as well as much as everybody wants praises. Now, even with the Nick Cannon thing, I'm gonna say this, and I feel like Nick Cannon is being hurt because of his guests. I felt like Viacom didn't like what his guests had to say, and
Right.
technically he's getting punished for it. And you know what? I think it's a good thing. because it's a good thing to show, and not to say anything else. If black people feel like they want their lack of power, or they want to show areas that they can be strong in, I think this is an opportunity. But this is also an opportunity to educate, because for one, a lot of people didn't understand what his host was saying. Right now, for people who's had the opportunity to go search about Hebrews, and I don't want to go into the linguistics of what religion and not religion is, right? But I would hope that it opened up a conversation that people do some research on both sides of the fences. For the people who were upset, who felt the son of, I want to say pronounce it correctly, blah, anti-Semitism, right? Or people who do not feel away for any side. I hope that it opens up the conversation, and I hope that for Nick Cannon's next endeavor, right, that it will work in better suit. Because for one, it's gonna sound bad to say this. Nick has been around those same people, Janelle, since he was a young boy. You gotta remember, Nick dad was
years.
yeah, but no, Janelle, remember, Nick dad was on TV first. That's how Nick was around the television audience, and he was on Nickelodeon, sorry, since he was a very young personnel. He's been, I mean, you want to hear something funny? I was on the internet it's about a week ago, listening to Jamie Foxx. And Jamie Foxx is talking about Drake and all these different artists that he's worked with and he's popped out, right? And he's talked about how Nick Cannon was one of the kids that was staying at his house, right? And to show that you've been around these people, so you know what it is. And I'm not saying like you don't out these people, right? I'm not saying don't out them, but if you know it's gonna mess your money up, you got to be careful. So I'm gonna say this: I felt like Nick Cannon did this with a heavy heart, because for one, a lot of his shows, because I'm not gonna hurt Wild 'N Out. The only time I know anybody was watching the Wild 'N Out really nowadays was on YouTube. Nobody was really watching Wild 'N Out on TV, because I wasn't. Most people I know don't watch TV anyway. In the dark light of Nick Cannon situation, Diddy owns Revolt TV, and Diddy basically reached. Yeah, Diddy reached out to him. Diddy reached out to him because
benefit.
well, I mean, and that's the reason why I'm saying it there's opportunity in this, because you list a couple of things. You said Oprah got her own station. Tyler Perry got his own studios, right? Diddy got Revolt, because that's how the Breakfast Club now is on a station, because I like how he did it. Like Hot 97, or iHeartRadio owns the Breakfast Club technically, right? And they own the audio of the Breakfast Club. Diddy owns the video of the Breakfast Club for Revolt.
That's cool.
You get what I'm saying? So it's a very good play on words. But I would say this now: it should open up that conversation, and I think for some of our strong black male actors and actresses who feel like this is a time for them to me, to step out and do something different. Use some of that extensive money, even for Nick Cannon. If Damon Dash said it, and I'm not a big fan of Damon Dash, but if you feel like you want to control your own rhetoric, you have to own your own stuff. You know what I mean?
He kind of was saying that. He's like, you can't fire a boss, right?
That's correct.
And to be fair, I feel like he definitely should have made sure.
I mean, that is true. That is true. You have to vet your people sometimes, especially at his level.
No. I'm not talking about his guests. I feel like you're entitled to have, whatever guest you want to have on your show. I'm talking about he should have made sure that he actually owned Wild 'N Out.
So, all right. So, just so I can get this in context, because I'm not sure about the legality of the Wild 'N Out part, because that information is just being dawned upon me. But when you see shows like that being started, when you look at from where Nick Cannon started it from MTV, you and I both know a lot of those people, they are not gonna give you all the eggs in one basket. That should have been a very common sense issue of it for Nick Cannon.
So that's what I'm saying. Like first of all, he started that show out of his own pocket, right? Like he paid for that. And I think that he was under the mistaken impression that because he paid for it, it was his. But being on the Viacom network, I believe, I mean, obviously, I don't have that contract in front of me.
Yes, do not.
I believe that they ended up having the ownership of it. So now he's looking at them as if they swindled him. He's basically saying that they used the opportunity to take the show from him. They used the opportunity to quote unquote put him in his place, put the black boy in his place. Here's the thing. I love that Diddy stepped up, and that's honestly what I was looking at. Like I said, when I got up this morning, I was just like, okay, so who's gonna step up? He can record it at the studio, he can be on somebody else's network, right? But now the fact that he doesn't own the show is kind of just wow. So I'm sure that there's gonna be some kind of lawsuit in that situation. I'm eager to see what happens. But I'm interested in it more so because of what Nick was saying. He was saying that he actually did reach out to the network. He reached out to have a conversation, to apologize, and they wouldn't even answer his phone calls. The owner wouldn't even answer his calls. He's, since his podcast aired, actually come out with a not necessarily an apology. I mean, there was an apology in it, but I don't know that I would consider it a major apology. It was really just saying, nothing that I said was malicious, and I invite the opportunity to have open discourse about it. I want to be set straight if there is something to be set straight on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he definitely was talking about, a lot of the Jewish community and rabbis and stuff like that reaching out to him and showing support. Which, I mean, like I said, that's amazing. I definitely do not ascribe to, one group or another being superior. So I think it's awesome that the opportunity called for them to come together. It's interesting the things that he said about, them using the opportunity to take the show from him. Because, I mean, let's be real. Wildin' Out is not Wildin' Out without Nick Cannon.
No, it's not. It is not. But I would say this is, and these are things that brings my curiosity, because Wildin' Out is not Wildin' Out without Nick Cannon, but a lot of those talents that comes to Wildin' Out came to it because of Nick Cannon.
Right.
Right?
Nothing is the show without him.
Now this would be the question.
Will they back him?
Well, it's not with their backing, because now I would like to get a little law hat, not saying this is your department, in the sense of what contract now did Nick gain these young artists or comedians to sign? Are they on a 6-month contracts? Are they in a 1-year contract? Are they in a 2-year contract? So technically Nick leaves, but because they're on the contract, where can they go? Now, when you look at the type of people that Nick works with, and I'm not saying, because when you talk to DC Young Fly I'm a fan of DC. I watch him and his girlfriend.
Publicly backed him.
No, but I'm just saying. But I wanted to use DC as an example. But you got to remember, DC's contract was just about to come to an end. I'm not sure if DC renegotiated, because DC is going to TRL.
Okay.
So let's see how that conversation goes, right? But in the sense that if your money didn't get good during that period, right? Are you willing to walk away from what's left? Now, if I'm gonna be getting another $10 million contract, right, and I only got 300 stacks to pick up off this deal, you'll keep the 300. I got 10 mil coming. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. I feel like everyone at this point knows that Nick Cannon is for his people, right? Anyone who never brought onto the show, they were allowed to be who they are. He never took offense to anything. He let them do what they wanted to do, right? And they know that. They know that Nick has their back and has had their back. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I've seen at least 3 of the cast members already publicly back him. I'm pretty sure that they're all going to rally around him. I mean, I was actually eager to see if Justina Valentine was gonna come forward and say something because she's basically uh, the only white person on the show. I don't know her
Yeah.
religion, but it was just interesting. I was looking to see if it would happen. I haven't seen it yet. Who knows if it's going to happen? Um, but in my opinion, if Nick is walking or I mean forced to walk, obviously, and he's going to revolt, I'm pretty sure he's going to look out for his people there too. And I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some kind of, contract.
Show. It's
Right.
gonna be a show with a new name. I would say this from what people have said about Diddy and contracts. As long as Diddy don't come shiesty with a man, you feel
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And these are the things that we have to work at because now on the legal side of it because they know Nick is hurting, right? What is this new contract gonna look like? You
I
know what
mean,
I mean? Is this
well,
contract gonna look better?
let's be real. Nick Cannon is not hurting.
Y- Well, I
Let's
mean,
be real.
yes, but you know everything comes with a brand
Yeah.
because when they drop that deal technically majority of the time it covers him and the team. You know what I mean? It's normally a package deal for everybody to get paid under, right? But it's like where does the deal come? And that's where a lot of the small people that's where friendship technically gets destroyed. You know what I mean? Like yes, I would say this Justina, DC, like the guys who found success after it because Chico Beans along with DC and one of the other guys they know they actually have a tour have a podcast on tour. I'm not sure if you know about that because Chico found out said that there was things that was going on over there in the Wild and Out team that he didn't want to discuss from before that him and Nick know about that made him have to walk away. So it just made it feel like there's other issues that has happened from Wild and Out before,
Hmm.
right? That Dave, like for example, remember how Dave Chappelle went through his issue with Comedy Central, right?
Right.
Which is technically the same people, but we're not gonna try to dictate who these people are because I don't have their names at the hand to put them in context. Like this is who's saying this or this is who is saying that,
Hmm.
right? But it's the fact that when they trying to take your liability away because for one, I guarantee if Nick Cannon wasn't on it, this is where things get sticky for me, right? If Nick Cannon was on there bashing black people in a sense, would it be the same? Would the rhetoric be the same thing? Let's ask that question.
Well, what do you mean?
Like if he was being anti-Semitic against black people,
Mm.
right, on this podcast, the way that they're talking about him being against the Rothschilds, right? Would he face the same judgment that he's facing now?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna keep it real, I mean, look how many racist white people are still on air and have their own shows, and they're
Well,
still doing completely fine, right?
Janelle, I would say this 10 years ago, yes. In the last 2 years, no. Every time, no. In the last 2 years, technically not, because if you look how white people, in a sense, I'm gonna use Bill O'Reilly. Cancel culture got Bill O'Reilly, but they got him in different ways that they need to get. It's like if you watch how the racial conversation has gone nowadays, they've they've actually found very good ways to ride that nice little line without causing any much issue. And I want to give a shout out to Tommy Lauren for that because Tommy showed me how great you can ride that line and offend people without technically offending people if I say it the least because she's saying what she needs to say to offend the right people but making the right people happy but not bad enough to get herself kicked off the air. So to me, that's an art. You have to understand how creative you have to be to play that line. But it's different ways to say it. You get what I'm saying? But in the sense, I feel like Nick is gonna get canceled because cancel culture has been hitting racial white people, right? And from the Viacom era, from their people, it's time that they make an example of black people as well. Since they've been forced to cancel white people, which has been going on for the last year, technically right now, Nick is the first black person to get canceled from the air for racial slurs at this moment. Because I technically can't speak of anybody else that I've heard that lost major deals on this. But when
Hmm.
you think about all the other white people who's been feeling this, they've been feeling it. So I felt like, yo, right now, Nick was like was the person getting crucified in the moment. Like we're gonna have to sacrifice you. And I think as bad as it sounds, and this is why I don't understand with white people. Not to be in the same rhetoric. It's like, yo, if you saw one person get outed and lose their job one way, that should be a big symbol for you to be like this. You know what? These are things I should not be saying, right? And I would say this to all my black people out here. It's like know your lines and know how to write them. You know what I mean? Find ways how to do it. For example, Trevor Noah does it all the time, and I love Trevor Noah, but he
Well,
finds educated ways of how to get his point across without pushing the narrative. Now, I can't wait to hear the way he addresses this Nick Cannon situation. I'm not gonna lie, because I
well,
just love.
I don't think that there's anything that I have ever heard from Trevor Noah that was even remotely racist. I don't think that I mean, he's both black and white. I don't think that there's a necessarily an agenda behind the things that he says. I think he's just educating simply.
Yeah, but
Um,
that is the very essence of it. Because I'm not gonna say Nick is not educated, but you have to be educated enough to know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. Because if you watch Trevor Noah, he's had different people with different rhetorics come on his show, right?
mhm.
And he's find ways to agree with them without agreeing with them and getting himself in trouble. And he used pretty good words like this, right? I understand and I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I really do feel like that was the vibe that Nick was on. He was kind of just
Yeah.
like, right. So, without saying if we're saying XYZ, that's
Yeah,
what he was doing. He was just like, so why would they be doing XYZ?
exactly.
I was like, okay, it's not. I don't know. I'm not ready to sink him.
No, I'm not. I mean, don't get, Nick, I love you, bro. But I'm not playing your music. I'll find a way to watch while now on the YouTube. I ain't playing your music, bro. I will watch Drumline.
Well, so they were talking about Tucker Carlson and how he's still on air and
Oh,
taking a great grand vacation right now.
no,
Um,
don't let me get started with Tucker.
there was another woman, I forgot who it was that they were talking about as well. But those are the people who I was referring to when I said, look at the white people that are on here that are
No,
racist.
yeah, but Janelle, I want you to understand. Tucker Carlson is on Fox News, right?
Hmm.
Fox News owns their rhetoric.
Hmm.
They own their narrative. So you see, until he uses a slur, right, like Bill O'Reilly did, because I want you to understand, Fox News was forced to cancel Bill O'Reilly. They had no choice. Tucker just hasn't pushed that button yet.
Mm.
That's what I'm telling you. There's a way for
Well,
the line to get right, for the
apparently
line to get ridden.
they fired a writer um, for hate speech or something along those lines, and then Tucker took a vacation.
Right? 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 But that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling. And when you think about it, is then you sit here to think is, hold on. So these guys are on TV talking, and they didn't write what they're saying.
I know.
No, Jenna, let's put that into perspective, because I love Dion Cole. Dion Cole is one of my favorite comedians. He used to write for Conan O'Brien, right?
Mhm.
So he used to write jokes to Conan O'Brien, and he will talk about all the people that he has to sit around because they all got to write these jokes. Now you sit here to think about, like, so technically you're saying that if Tucker Carlson, now I can't speak on something I'm not completely aware of, so I wasn't aware of the writer being fired, of how deep the story is. So I'm going to go on speculation, right? Basically, what when you say you took a vacation is like, I didn't write that. So even though I may have said it, right? I'm just getting paid to do what I was told to do, was read the teleprompter. That's
Mhm.
like that's how you dodge that bullet.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know,
how you get someone
you know,
else fired.
right? But it's like, so hold on, you're trying to tell me when you're reading this and and that comes up to you, it doesn't go to your mouth like, I don't think I should be saying this. That doesn't happen. And I'm gonna say this, this is the reason why I have an issue with a lot of this police thing. And I feel like, I know we want to defund the police, but police just need to figure out how to retrain people, because police is never going to get defunded, as much as as
Yeah,
crazy as it sounds.
a whole different conversation.
You know what I mean? But in the retrospect, it's like people need to just understand and know what they're doing in both sense. I'm gonna say this, in the Nick Cannon aspect, I feel bad for Nick. I really do. I know that based on the different avenues that he's gonna lose money from at this moment,
Hmm.
right? I know he bought a couple $2 million shoes, so there's, I mean, they could be returned for $1 million. That's if you're if you're hurting that badly. But I'm just saying, no, there's ways for you to recover. And I want to say this, for every black media source out there who is doing what Diddy did for Nick, please do. And I think this is a moment that for everybody out there, I think this is an education. It's a very educated moment
I
in
I
in
agree.
different sense.
I think that this entire situation was full of education for everyone in context. Like,
Yes. Yes.
just context.
Just context, right?
Um, this entire situation, I think, is great for educational purposes, and I think that the reason that people feel bad for Nick is because I don't really feel genuinely that he is um anti-Semitic. Like,
No, I don't feel so
there
either.
were times in his podcast where he even was just like, I feel even weird saying, they,
Mm.
and blaming the quote unquote days. um I really feel like he just failed at being a journalist, at being a host, which is fair because he's not one, right?
That's correct.
But he has a podcast, and he had someone come on. He had a guest, and so as that host, he definitely should have, like, as you said, found a way to
Hmm.
not necessarily agree with his guest, but to get information out of
I
them,
would, yeah,
right?
that's correct.
So definitely, can say I appreciate what Diddy did in stepping up. I was expecting more, not
Yeah,
not specifically from Diddy, but I mean from the Black community. I
yeah,
feel
from
like
more outlets. That's correct.
being around him, but the people who matter, the people who have the means, I haven't heard much from them. So
I think Viacom owns BET as well, so he ain't going to BET.
yeah, I mean, BET is everybody, for some reason, still thinks that that's a Black network. It's not.
That's
It's not.
not. Yeah, he ain't going there. He literally really really needs. I would say this, yo, Nick. In this moment, if with the money you got, start your own production, bro. You know what I mean? Like, do it. I know we like getting money from the other guys, and it's not saying whoever the other guys is. The other guys comes in very forms and shape, right?
But
But do your
I
own thing, bro.
I also kind of feel like this moment in time for a lot of people, not just Nick, it's a moment where a lot of people are following different paths, finding different avenues, changing professions, just looking at different ways to channel their skills. So I mean, I feel like this could be something that just needs to get walked away from at this point, something that he can look back on and say, okay, I did something new, I did something else, I came up with a different idea, and actually own it.
That's correct. That's correct. And I would say this. We've heard Young Buck go through the same thing. I'm gonna go to rappers with 50 Cent when 50 was like, "Yo, you just gotta pay attention to how you're signing your deals,
Hmm.
because if you don't know what's going on with your personal endeavors, this is how people get taken advantage of."
Hmm.
And I think this is, as bad as it sounds, this is more a business lesson than anything else. I mean, it's a personal lesson of how to utilize your platform. But I feel like in Nick Cannon's case, like you can't go around changing what's wrong with what you said, because it's already happened. That's gone now. But with your deals, what I mean, things that can change over a period of time, renegotiations and stuff like that. This is when I look over. I'm gonna say this, and you can educate me. This is when I look over at my lawyer, like, yo, how you didn't tell me this was in the deal?
I honestly, I thought about that when he was saying, they swindled him and it was misrepresentation of certain things, and I was just like, how did you not know this? There had to be a point in time when you knew that they could take it from you.
That's correct.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like this is a perfect opportunity for him to just walk. walk and leave the show as the empty shell that it is without him and whoever will walk with him. Um, I don't know. I mean, how do you enjoy Wild 'N Out without Nick and without some of those other cast members that, like I said, will walk behind him? How?
Yeah, well, it's not even that. It's like as bad as it sounds, we don't have no one corny enough that we've grew up around that holds Nick's title. Like we love Nick because of his level of corniness that we feel like we get from him. You know what I mean? And when you think about it, it's just his way of knowing how to entertain the audience that he has. And it's like, even if they find somebody else, for one, a lot of people, based on how the show is ended and what we know because of what the culture is, a lot of people are not going to watch it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I'm gonna say this for me personally, because of how it ended and what it ended on, right? I'm not gonna watch it Wild 'N Out because I do feel like there could be a median in this, right? The same, and I would say this because I can't go the same way. I say the same way goes like, yo, there's different ways of how to reprimand people because I don't want to say I'm biased on this conversation because I'm talking from a black perspective. You know what I mean? As a black person, is that I would want Nick to get a second chance. But if I'm being fair, if that's how they felt and that's how if they feel that personal about what Nick did to them, like yeah, separate and go your own ways. And Nick, this is your opportunity to do your own thing. I think that's the biggest and brightest thing that comes out of this. And I'm not, and yes, I do love that Diddy gave him his opportunity. If you're not going to work with Diddy or Tyler Perry, you need to create your own avenues. And this is for everybody. Like ownership is key, guys. If I've learned that, you know what I mean? Janelle can't say that because she has her own law firm, but ownership is anything because for one, no one can control what you do and what you say because it's owned by you.
Yeah.
It's your narrative. They can never take that away.
And I mean, I suppose that's part of the struggle of the Black community at this point is finding ways to own our stuff because, airing your show on I forgot the percentage that they said Black people own in terms of TV stations and TV networks. I think it's like 6% or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
not major networks either.
Yeah, and I think in that you have to look at the possibilities for Black ownership in TV networks and other areas of media. Because I do know from just things that I've read in the past and reports and stuff, they do make it difficult. And a lot of stations are owned by one big parent company and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, ownership is key, but there's a cap when it comes to the Black community at times and in certain areas.
Now, Jill, a quick key question: do you think if even if he owned a cancel culture, would have caught him in this one?
I mean, I feel like just based off of Twitter right now, so many people are rallying against. I mean, for him, rallying with him in the Black community, but I know that there are a bunch of people who are upset at what he said, not just the things that are deemed to be anti-Semitic, but also about his comments on white people. And I do kind of feel like he echoed it a lot that he was referring to Dr. Farrakhan's what is it? Speeches? What does he do? Sermons? I don't know.
Yeah, call a sermon.
Right. So, in repeating things like that, I completely understand that you're repeating hateful rhetoric when it comes to anti-Semitism, right? In terms of the conversation that he was having about white people and the history of white people, I don't really see the harm. I think, like I said, it's history, it's facts, it's historically what has happened.
Yeah, ink is dry, boy.
But he definitely did echo some of Dr. Farrakhan's, I guess, out there views that white people are less than because they lack melanin, right? I don't agree with that. I don't think that
Me
that's
neither.
something that even should be echoed.
Because
But
I keep it real, John. I don't think we would last that long in the snow. So I don't know what to tell people. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
um,
Your people are just built for different weather, guys.
yeah, I know. I mean, I've never been to snow, but I don't want to be to snow.
That's what I'm just saying. And I know a lot of white people who be like, no, I'm moving up to Colorado. I'm just gonna live up in there in the snowy mountains. I'm like, really? But I know black people do too. So, but that's just to say the least.
So, I'm not sure. I feel like a lot of people were pissed off, and I guess it just depends on who was willing afterwards. I know the black community, majority of them, I don't think they would have stopped watching him.
Mm.
Um, but he definitely lost a lot of people in hosting. His name is Professor Griff, by the way.
Okay.
I looked him up a while ago. I honestly, I never heard of him before now. Um, so yeah, I don't know. As you said, it could have been done differently. It is what it is at this point. Can't take it back. I just personally feel like it wasn't malicious. So, like we said, guys, in
And he
context,
apologized. He tried to apologize, you know.
uh-huh. So
Mm.
in context, just the context,
Yeah.
I do think that it was a really sucky situation, and he definitely did some stuff wrong here.
Yes, he did.
um,
But it's a learning matter. I'll take it. You
yeah.
know, I think I would say this based on the conversation that we've been having in COVID and in racism,
Hmm.
because I feel like that's it goes into different ways. I think it's a good conversation because we can't want as black people we can't want I want to say white people to learn if sometimes we can exuberate certain things that can be misconstrued the same way. So
Right.
for us to teach somebody to do the right thing, we have to be doing the right thing.
Well, I mean that also sits on the premise that Black people should be teaching other people to do the right thing, right? So I don't agree with that at all. But I will say, as people in general, I think that to live well with each other, we
Hmm.
should share what we want to see, right? So you can't both want, no racism, but then also be prejudiced.
That's
Um,
correct.
so yeah, I agree with that on a certain level. But I think that's the end of our talk.
Oh yes, guys. Just so we can make sure we have everybody just in context. Um, please, guys. If there's anything that you hear that you like, that you dislike, agree or disagree, um, we're gonna have you leave that in the comment section.
Mhm.
Those are the best things about being in context because if we did take anything too far out of context, we just want to put it back in context.
Right. And as I said before, I'm not completely educated on these topics, anti-Semitism on a whole. I mean, I do have Jewish friends. I have been very close to Jewish people, but I am not completely educated on what may or may not be anti-Semitic or offensive, right? So I can only say what I view. I can only say what I thought or I heard. Um, and so if I somehow said something wrong, if I missed something completely, drop
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah, guys. Those are the best part. Hey guys, and I'm open to be educated because I would say this. Um, I am the one here that doesn't have a college degree. So with my mind being open in different ways possible, please feel free. Um, I think I have a lot of blank pages that still needs writing to get done on it. And I know for sure that my ink is far from being dry. So go ahead, guys. Fill the comments up. Say what you need to say. Do what you need to do. You know what I mean? Post what you need to post because we definitely want to hear it. Just in case we take anything out of context, we just put it back in context. So, guys, I would like to say have a wonderful day, and we look forward to the next episode.
This week.
Peace.